Okay, we're on to the greatest defensive outfielders. The top guy, and he is in the Hall of Fame, is Richie Ashburn. Initially, I was wondering how this guy got in, but he is 32% better than the average outfielder in his era. He had a fielding percentage of 983, and the league fielding was 978. Plus, his range was very good. Got to 3.02 balls at a time when the league average was 229. So far and away, Richie Ashburn is the best fielding outfielder in the book, The Greatest, on a relative basis, relative to his era. The next three guys are not in the Hall of Fame. Gary Maddox, 29% better than average outfielder in his era. Curt Flood, 28% better. Paul Blair, 27% better. Willie Mays was 25% better, and I think he had about 12 gold gloves. His range was 269, and the league range was 216. Fielding percentage was 981, and league fielding was 977. So again, even if you have a great fielding outfielder, they only get to 2.6 balls in an entire game. And a guy that has a great throwing arm in right field only does that about 14 times a year. So one every not even 10 games that happens. So you'll see we get down to Roberto Clemente. We have very low here. It's amazing how our perception of something is different than the stats actually show. When these guys have 18, 20-year careers. Tris Speaker is sixth best defensively of all time, 25% better. And we have Tris Speaker very high in the book, The Greatest. Two guys not in the Hall of Fame, Jim Edmonds and Andrew Jones should be in the Hall of Fame. They're not. 22% better than the average defensive outfielder. Max Carey's in the Hall of Fame. Devin White and Charlie Keller. Keller in particular we have ranked high in the book. He was 18% better than the average outfielder. Kirby Puckett only played 12 years, is in the Hall of Fame. 16% better than the average defensive outfielder and many gold gloves. Ed Delhanty in the Hall of Fame, 16% better. Cesar Cedeno, who we have ranked very high in the book, The Greatest, was 15% better than the average outfielder. Lloyd Wainer and Larry Doby in the Hall of Fame. Gorman Thomas, interesting, 14% better than the average outfielder in his entire career, and was a very good power hitter, and we have him ranked very high in the book, The Greatest. Torrey Hunter, a lot of gold gloves, 13% better than the average outfielder. Joe DiMaggio, 13% better defensively. Fred Lynn was 12% better, not in the Hall of Fame. These guys are in. Fred Clark, Ed Roush, Billy Hamilton, Ken Griffey Jr., lots of gold gloves. Earl Averill in the Hall of Fame. Reggie Smith, not in the Hall of Fame. Great hitter, 8% better defensively than the average outfielder. Should be in the Hall of Fame, no question about it. Same with the next guy, Eric Davis. Had a couple of gold gloves, 2 or 3. 8% better than the average outfielder of his era. Ty Cobb, 8% better than the average outfielder. Earl Combs in the Hall of Fame. Ryan Braun is 7% better than the average outfielder and a great hitter. Should be in the Hall of Fame one day. Mickey Mantle, Hugh Duffy, Andre Dawson, and Ricky Henderson. Cy Williams, above the average defensively. He's a very good hitter also. People don't know him in history. Should be in the Hall of Fame. Above average in the Hall of Fame, Al Simmons, Duke Snider, Joe Kelly. Ellis Burks, not in the Hall of Fame. Dale Murphy, above average, not in the Hall of Fame. Here it is. Roberto Clemente is only 2% better than the average outfielder for his entire 18-year career. Had a below average fielding percentage for 18 years, 973. The league average was 976. And his putouts and assists, his range, was only slightly better than average, 9.18, and the league average was, or 2.18. League average was 2.12. People wouldn't believe it, and there's going to be a lot of flack over this, but the stats are right here. Ken Williams, who we say in the book should be in the Hall of Fame, 2% better than the average. K-Line, 1% better than average. Here's the one interesting. Ichiro Suzuki has about 13 gold gloves. We have him 2% better than the average defensive outfielder in his entire career. His fielding percentage is slightly better than the average at 992. League average is 986. But his range is 2.33 putouts per 9 innings for his entire career. And the league average is 2.3. People wouldn't believe it, but these are the stats. Ichiro Suzuki, now I don't know, does he have a cannon as an arm? The stats, though, show he's an average outfielder. Monty Irvin and Hank Aaron were average outfielders. Bonds average. These guys aren't in the Hall of Fame, should be. Bonds, Foster, and Bob Johnson, a guy lost in history, played 13 years, good hitter. Below average fielders in the outfield, Zach Wheat in the Hall of Fame. Pete Rose is 2% below average in the outfield. He had a very low range, 208 to 214 putouts and assists per 9 innings. Pete Rose, we say in the book, should not be in the Hall of Fame because there's so many more guys that perform better, that hit for average and power and stole bases and got walks, and Pete Rose was below average defensively. The only thing you could say is the longevity of the career and 4,000 hits, but he was a singles hitter. Sammy Sosa below average. Barry Bonds we have as below average. He had about 10 gold gloves. We have him 3% below average defensively in the book, The Greatest. Dusty Baker, 4% below. We have Tony Gwynn, 5% below average defensively. Parker, 5% below average, but we say in the book he should be in the Hall of Fame, is not. Carl Yaz, we have 5% below average defensively in his career. His range was only 208, and his league range was 219. So everybody thinks Carl Yaz was a great defensive player. He's below average, 5%. Frank Robinson, 5 below average. Bobby Mercer, these guys not in the Hall of Fame. Bobby Mercer, Joe Jackson, Vladimir Guerrero, Larry Walker, Dwight Evans, we have 7% below average defensively. His range, putouts and assists, was only 225, and the league range was 243. Now, you could say that people didn't run against his great arm, but how often does that really happen where he wouldn't get an assist? You're primarily getting putouts in the outfield. So it's very interesting. For his 20-year career, his range was below league average. Jack Clark, 8% below. Calavito, 8% below. Rico Carty was 9% below average in the outfield. Dave Winfield, we have 10% below average in the outfield. His range was only 2.16. League range was 2.38. He had a couple of gold gloves. Jackson, 10% below. Staub, 10% below. Canseco, 11% below. Babe Ruth, we have 12% below average as a defensive outfielder. It's kind of interesting. Jim Rice, we have as 13% below average as a defensive outfielder. He got in the Hall of Fame. Fred Lynn did not. Lou Brock, we have as 13 below. average, 13% below average in the book. Billy Williams, 13% below. These guys are in the Hall of Fame. Don Baylor and Strawberry, 14% below average defensively. Kiner was 16% below. Sheffield was 16% below average in the outfield. Interesting. These are guys in the Hall of Fame, very bad fielders. Willie Keeler, 17% below. Same with Eno Slaughter. Ted Williams we have as 18% below average in the outfield. Only at a range of 195 at a time when the league range was 2.35. Ross Young's in the Hall of Fame. Harry Heilman. Harry Heilman's in the Hall of Fame. Very good hitter. We have 21% below average as a defensive outfielder, only at a range of 1.87. 1.87 putouts and assists per 9 innings. The league average was 2.34. Here's two more guys. Well, three more. Manny Ramirez not in the Hall of Fame. 21% below average. King Kelly in the Hall of Fame. 23% average defensively. Below average. Only at a range of 157. And Sam Thompson, interesting enough, he was only 11% below average defensively. So that was all the outfielders.